I think joy and happiness and doing things you like is important.
My favorite thing is sports cards. When I'm not on YouTube, I am building my collection. And when I started, I wish there was a sports card strategy show.
He wasn't necessarily going to be a first-round pick before all this Heisman buzz. Now they're talking about him being a top 5 pick.
Paul Hickey and the team at nooffseason.com personally helped build my Jaden Daniels collection, and they're looking to do the same for you. Just check them out on social media or nooffseason.com.
Hey, this is Jason Howarth with Panini. You're listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show. There is no off-season.
This is Adam Rips with VFriends. I'm loving the content here on the Sports Card Strategy Show and the nooffseason.com Sports Card Network. There is no off-season.
What's up, everybody? I'm Paul Hickey with nooffseason.com. This is the Sports Card Strategy Show. Don't forget to get a free 30-day trial at nooffseason.com today to help you make money flipping sports cards, build your sports card investment portfolio, get unlimited advice from our experts, and take sports card school to navigate the hobby. That's nooffseason.com. Get your free 30-day trial today. All the data we use on the Sports Card Strategy Show is from marketmoversapp.com. Use code NOOFFSEASON at marketmoversapp.com to get 20% off for life after a free 14-day trial. All right, let's get to the Sports Card Strategy. You're the nooffseason.com family. I'm Paul Hickey. This is the Sports Card Strategy Show. Happy Monday, August 5th, everybody. I am excited to help you make money flipping sports cards, and we're going to do some fun stuff on the show today that we don't normally do, and we'll do some stuff on the show that we normally do. So we're going to go through our top 5 cards to buy raw and grade. That's going to be a little conservative per the formula at nooffseason.com. And there's a theme, narrowing your focus. I want to narrow everyone's focus because even though it's Monday, August 5th, in my mind, it's like the end of 2024. You know why? Because we got to start thinking about what cards are we liquidating in Q4 of 2024. We treat this like a business, even though there's a lot of great stuff going on in the hobby. Here at the Sports Card Strategy Show and at nooffseason.com, we treat this like a business, right? But it's a fun business. And businesses use phrases like mitigate risk, Q4, right? So I'm already thinking about Q4. And for those of you who don't know, that would be October, November, and December, the last quarter of the year 2024. In my mind, it's already here. I'm already thinking about my sports card strategy for the end of the year because right now is the time I should be buying those cards that I am going to be liquidating by the start of Q4. And then I need to have a strategy for what I'm buying during Q4. So even though it's Monday, August 5th, everybody, I'm already thinking that it's the end of the year and acting accordingly. So we're going to get into that. And I talked about the risk mitigation, the safe play of narrowing your focus in the top 5 cards to buy raw and grade in the formula. And then we're going to do something a little bit riskier, maybe a little bit more fun. I get accused of not having as much fun sometimes because I'm such a fiscally responsible human being when it comes to investing in sports cards. I don't take a lot of risks. I've been burned a lot. I was burned a lot the first couple of years I was doing this. I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. And that's why I do what I do at nooffseason.com. I help you make fiscally smart decisions. So what I'm going to do that's a little bit more fun that I don't normally do is I'm going to flag plant on a QB. That's going to be a quick flip QB. And it's going to be a second year quarterback. So rookie cards are out. It's either Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, or Bryce Young. We've talked about these guys for a long time because they were hot rookies last year going into their rookie season. And quite frankly, they're still hot. The data tells us that they're still hot. MarketMoversApp.com. Use the promo code NOOFFSEASON. Get 20% for life after a free 14-day trial. When I mention the data, that's where the data is coming from. We do a daily market report here on the Sports Card Strategy Show feed. And when we get to the football market report every Tuesday, sponsored by CGC Cards, by the way, when we get to the football market report every Tuesday, I mean, we see these guys near the top. We see Stroud, we see Levis, we see AR, and we even see Bryce Young. So I'm going to flag plant because it's Monday, August 5th. I'm going to buy a card on the show, most likely, or at least I'm going to bid on several cards on the show. Who knows if I actually buy one, right? We got to see what's available. We're going to do it together, right? And then I'm going to sell it probably during the first 4 weeks of the NFL season. So I'm about 6 weeks away, maybe even 4 weeks away from selling this card. And I'm going to go for like a spike week card. I'm not going to go safe. I'm not going to go conservative like I normally do. I normally am just like, hey, I'm going to buy this early. I'm going to sell it at the rise of the hype and I'm going to make 20%. Not this time, not on today's show. I'm going to do something a little bit riskier. I'm going to flag plant. I'm going to buy the right card at the right time. Hopefully it's for the right player. That's where the risk comes in here, because we're going to go through my process of analyzing the schedules, the offseason moves, the prices for those 4 quarterbacks. We're going to make a decision together. So I'm excited to do that with all of you today. And call up alert, Coby Mayo has been called up. Coby Mayo has been called up by the Baltimore Orioles. And we sent out a sell alert for Jackson Holiday last week because he had been recalled up, right? And then he hit a grand slam. His prices went up. We think it's a great time to be listing your Jackson Holiday cards. Probably a great time to be listing your Coby Mayo cards as well. So a little pre-sell alert notification for you here for those of you who are listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show right now. And stay tuned at nooffseason.com for the official sell alert probably later this week. To get that, it's free. Just text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727 if you want those sell alerts sent to your mobile device. Text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727 to sign up for those sell alerts. Makes sense to get them in a mobile alert format because, you know, when a player is hot, you got to know right away and you got to be ready to list their card. So we're helping you do that. Just one of the many ways that we help you make money flipping sports cards. All right. Speaking of that, we got new services and benefits for paid members of nooffseason.com free of charge. I've said it a lot off the air. I'm going to start saying it more on the air. I don't raise prices. I mean, the Sports Card Strategy Show all throughout the week is free. There's a premium pod on Fridays. You got to be a paid member at nooffseason.com to get the premium pod. But I just keep giving you more and more value if you're a premium member of nooffseason.com. I don't raise the prices. You get a free 30-day trial. Once you stay auto-renewed past your free 30-day trial, I just keep giving you more and more. So we already launched the formula-based sports card rankings this year for free. That is probably the number one way people are making money flipping sports cards right now in the entire hobby. Other than going to card shows and being a comp kid and just buying it 60%, 70% of comps, putting it back out on your table, and then flipping it for 90% of comps. Other than that, the formula-based sports card rankings is the number one way people are making money in the hobby right now. And we launched them, and we basically gave them to you for free if you're a premium member. I mean, you already had the Overflow Show premium pod. You already had unlimited advice from me. You already had premium articles. And then you already had Sports Card School. So now we've just added the formula-based sports card rankings, and now we're adding something even more relevant to all of you, and that is a card analysis and grading submission service. So get this. We will intake and review, prep your cards for grading now. It's going to be me, by the way. It's going to be me. I mean, this whole business is basically me. I've got Lefty. I've got Interner. I've got Sonia. I've got some other people helping me out, right? But they're all part-time. Now, they do a great job, but they're all part-time. So when you submit these cards, when you do anything as a premium member at nooffseason.com, that's me, right? So I've got this for you. Intake and review, prep your cards for grading. Get discounts on grading submissions. Here's the big one. Bypass minimum card submissions, right? We had somebody ask on the premium pod last week, can I just submit one card to a grading company and get, the $15 a card price? You can't, right? Especially at PSA, you got to have the minimum, right? You could submit it at $25 a card, but then you got to pay this absorbent amount for shipping. So now you can do that with me and you bypass all of that, right? Now, I will also, so this also helps you with some max declared value limits. It definitely helps you bypass the minimum submissions. I will also consign your cards if you want. I'm not going to force you into that, but you get a little bit of free consulting services from me when you submit cards to me, because I will analyze the card and I will say, look, I think this is a good one. You could consign it with me, or I can ship it back to you, whatever you want. So you can submit an unlimited amount of cards for our review, grading, and consignment. And this is, there's a per card fee. So you got to go to the website to see all the rest of this. So there is a per card fee. I will tell you, because I will also crack your slabs. So if you're sending me slabs from BGS, from SGC, and you don't want to crack them yourself and you're nervous about that, send them in. Same per card fee. I'll crack your slab for you and I'll submit them to the grading company of your choice. So this includes the ability to use that Fanatics Collect high dollar auction that we've talked about on the show. So we're basically now a full service provider for you to grade and flip. Send us your cards and we'll do the rest. More information, if you're a premium member at nooffseason.com, if you're paid and active, just go to your member dashboard. It's your My Account page. You'll see it right at the top. And you'll see the link to just go in and start submitting the cards. It's a very, very competitive per card fee. You'll see what it is. Let me know your thoughts. Definitely looking forward to working with many of you on this. And again, I've mentioned this, I've teased this in previous episodes. Many of you have emailed me. Thank you so much for that. I'm not even charging you any more money to give you this service. You still got to pay the per card fee, but it's very economical because you're going to save on shipping. You're going to save on minimum card submissions. And you might even make more money than you could by consigning with me. You're going to get my analysis and everything like that. Now, this is different than the one-on-one package. This is very different than the one-on-one package. But what I wanted to do is kind of consolidate everything together, give everybody that's a paid member at nooffseason.com the same opportunity to do everything other than the one-on-one package. The one-on-one package, if you want to work directly with me, just email me at paul@nooffseason.com. That will probably run out. I will probably stop that. I mentioned Q4, right? If you want to work one-on-one directly with me, I'm probably going to cut off the new people that I take on for the one-on-one package for the foreseeable future at the end of 2024. So email me at paul@nooffseason.com if it's something you've thought about doing the one-on-one. We'll get you going. Are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. And I would highly recommend CGC Cards for people that, may just want to get their perfect PC protection, right? Like that is a very, very low entry fee at CGC, very low minimum card submission. If you're not worried about making money flipping, I think that's the best place for you. I think if you want to make money flipping, I think you should definitely consider the service that I mentioned before the CGC read. But nevertheless, we love everybody at CGC. Our goal is to help them get more sports cards submitted, graded, and sold on the secondary market so that we can see the market price of the CGC slabs rise to get as close to PSA as possible. And we want to be the leaders in that. So we're certainly supporting CGC Cards, even though, the most important thing to do is to support all of you and help you make money flipping sports cards. And so for that reason, most of the cards right now that we would submit for you would be to PSA, but you get that choice. All right, everybody, time to get into, I think, our conservative portion of the show. I mentioned it earlier, and we're going to talk now about the top 5 cards to buy raw and grade per the formula. And we're going to talk about narrowing your focus. So narrowing your focus is extremely important for sports card investors. To become a successful sports card flipper and consistently make money on sports cards, you can't spread yourself too thin. You can't spread yourself too thin into multiple players at any given time. You've listened to the show. Some of you have taken sports card school. You've likely heard me mention the fact that it always makes sense to go back and buy a previous release after a new release comes out, right? You've probably also heard me talk about the guideline. Buy a top player's rookie card 3 to 4 months after all of their rookie cards have hit the market. The reason behind this is simple. As more supply of a player's card hits the market and demand stays the same, prices drop. Each year, a pattern repeats itself for the top football and basketball rookies. When Optic comes out, Prism prices drop. While people start to chase Optic, which is now the latest release, Optic just came out for football and basketball, Prism's prices drop. But here's the kicker. Interest isn't lost in Prism in the longer term since it's that flagship brand that everybody goes back to. Historically, Prism will always be the one, at least out of all the cards made from probably 2012 through the present, before Fanatics takes over the license, right? Because we know that's going to change when Fanatics takes over the license. But for now, any cards made in 2024, there's still going to be, Prism's going to be the card. Historical data just shows it. So our raw to grade formula-based sports card rankings show that the raw Prism prices for 2 of the top players, 1 in each of the top 2 sports, Victor Wembanyama for basketball and CJ Stroud for football. We've been studying this. I've personally been studying this for about the last 5 or 6 months. These 2 guys, base Prism, and some other Prism variations that we're going to get into, have leveled off and even dropped a bit from a raw to grade standpoint, but there's still that high upside, and the formula still likes them a lot. But we're in the sweet spot now to go ahead and buy these guys because Optic has come out, Contenders, right? Contenders came out for basketball, Contenders for football, and so now you've got these different desirable cards that are taking people's attention away from Prism. And when that happens, like I said a second ago, the prices drop because there's more supply outside of just Prism. So we are in a sweet spot to buy Wemby and CJ right now. And before we jump into the cards, it's important to reiterate that the data is telling us week over week that the market really only wants Wemby and Stroud cards. I mean, we talk about a lot of other players because it's fun to do that, and you can make money flipping all kinds of sports cards. There's millions and millions of cards. But, I mean, we're going to do something a little bit riskier later, and so I think we should do the safe thing now and just talk about Wemby and Stroud. So the data, first of all, the data is telling us in the weekly market reports that we do on the Sports Card Strategy Show, Wemby dominates basketball, Stroud dominates football. I also personally believe that Wemby has the most upside in the basketball card market, and Stroud has the most upside in the football card market. Even though they're both expensive, it won't take much for them to spike. Wemby is here's where I get into a little flag plant. I'm flag planting quite a bit in this episode. It's going to be a fun one. Wemby's a future MVP, guys. Drop a comment below at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Let me know if you agree, disagree, when you think he'll win an MVP. I think he could. I think he could win the MVP this year. I think he's that good. I think Victor Wembanyama could win the MVP award this year. He's that good. Knock on wood, stays healthy, plays for Greg Popovich. They put some talent around him. Chris Paul, Stephon Castle. I mean, there's talent around him. They still got Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. I mean, they got a good team. They got some role players. Jeremy Sochan looks like Dennis Rodman for the Spurs back in the day with the dyed hair. Wemby could do it. I mean, Wemby could do it as early as this year. The Spurs could go far into the playoffs as early as this year. So I think he's a future MVP with multiple quadruple doubles in his future. And the Spurs can make the playoffs this year. I think Stroud is already an MVP candidate on a Texans team with the chance to make the Super Bowl in his second year, which would be reminiscent of Joe Burrow. Okay. History repeats itself, guys, especially in the NFL. So what I mean by that is it doesn't have to be the same player doing the same thing, but it's pattern recognition, right? It's a second year QB coming in and doing something special. So the strategy is going to focus on a concept that I'm going to shout out Prism God here. Prism God's a new friend, Raphael Mosley, and he and I were talking at the Dallas Card Show. He's the creator of Culture Collision, by the way. And I haven't checked out his podcast, but he has a podcast as well now. I'd love to get on his show. I'd love to have him on my show. He told me about a concept that he implemented back in 2019, and he called it buy low, buy high. And what he meant by that is buy lower priced cards, but buy a lot of them and make sure it's the right player. And back then for him, it was Zion. And he told me he did very well. And then he was able to parlay the lower priced cards, but high volume of the lower priced cards into basically he graded them, had a lot of big wins, sold a lot of them at the right time, probably sold a lot of them at the wrong time, but still overall had some big wins. And so I'm trying to do that with Victor Wembanyama. Okay. He's my guy that I think we can do this with. And the numbers say that we can do this. So that's where my focus is the most. But I don't want to leave out Stroud because I think even though it's probably too late to grade football cards and get them back before the start of the football season, when we do that with Stroud, he's a little bit of an exception to the rule because he should still be relevant into the playoffs, right? Now, we don't know what's going to happen in the NFL season. NFL, I've said this before, I think it's the greatest soap opera. So the Texans could suck. We don't know, right? It's all about injuries. It's all about chemistry. It's all about all these different things. Sometimes the proverbial ball just doesn't bounce the way that you think it's going to bounce, right? I mean, Stroud could do everything that he's supposed to do, and maybe the kicker misses a kick, or, the defense, allows the game-winning touchdown, and after Stroud's already done everything. So we just don't know. But I think my point is grading a Stroud card and having it at PSA or another grading company while you could have sold it for a profit probably won't hurt you that much if you do this raw to grade formula, because I think Wemby and Stroud are almost injury proof in the hobby. I think there's so much hype around these two guys. People want these guys so much. They're just freaks of nature in terms of what they can do for their teams, what they can do on the playing surface, the court, the field. And so I think that they're almost injury proof. Like I think a worst case scenario happens with these guys from an injury standpoint or from an underperformance standpoint. I don't think their prices drop that much. Now, on the other side, if they do have performance spikes, I think their prices go up huge. So I think that that's why we can go ahead and grade and maybe miss sometimes when we would have sold them for a profit, wait to get them back from grading. And we might even be in a better scenario when we get them back from grading, because the longer we hold sometimes with guys like this, they just get hot and their prices keep going up and up. So I think the play makes sense to look to narrow our focus from a raw to grade standpoint on the topic of today's show to these two players, because back to Q4 coming up again, quicker than we realize. We want all of our cards gone by the end of October, or by the end of, at the very, very latest, the end of November. Why do we want them gone? Because prices drop between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And the best time to buy sports cards historically is around the holidays, December. So I want all my sports cards gone by the end of November at the very, very latest. I've even said aggressively, I want them gone by the end of October. And then I want to use an allocation from those funds to buy a D ton, S ton, whatever your curse word ton of cards, crap ton of cards in December, and just have the process repeat itself. Because all the cards I bought in December last year, I've made a lot of money on because they're just so low. So I want to get rid of all my cards by the end of, basically by the beginning of Q4. And then I want to buy back in to a bunch of my inventory by the end of Q4. So Q4. How many times have I said it? Drop a comment below. Let me know. And maybe I'll give you a nice little giveaway from the National. All right, everybody. Here we go. So we're going to mix and match some cards here and go through sort of our top 5-ish raw to grade cards. I usually start at the bottom and go to the top. So let's go ahead and do that. Wemby, his 2023 Prism Silver 136 is not cheap. It's $477 target cost right now. The play is to buy it right now, graded at PSA. And your expected ROI from this card when you get it back should be 24%. So this includes all the different grades that you could get. You might get a 9, hopefully you get a 10, hopefully you don't get an 8. But this is if you buy multiple Wembanyama Prism Silver cards around that 477 target cost that you think will gem, you should make 24%. Now, this would be before a performance spike. So if he comes out and he does something spectacular at the beginning of the NBA season, maybe even the Spurs win the in-season tournament, something like that, and then you sell and you make even more than 24%. The other thing I like about this card is if you get 10s on this, you can hold this for a playoff run and you can see maybe even a 10x like we saw with Anthony Edwards, right? We did the raw to grade on the Anthony Edwards, and in the postseason this past year, 10x, right? So this is a card that has that potential, the Prism Silver PSA 10. So because it's such a high buy-in point, and actually right now in the sports card market, I should drop this nugget. A pattern that I'm noticing is that the premium on a PSA 10 is actually, compared to raw, is actually much lower than I've ever seen it in the last 5 years. It used to be that like on a card like this, you'd 3, 4, 5x from a raw to a PSA 10. Now we're basically just seeing like a 2x, which is really, really interesting. It's a topic for another day. If you have thoughts on that, drop a comment at youtube.com/Paul Hickey, or just follow me on Instagram, Sports Card Strategy, and DM me, right? Follow and DM all day long, Sports Card Strategy on Instagram. Let's build that following. Let's get it up over 10K before Fanatics Fest. Can we do that, everybody? Let's get Sports Card Strategy Instagram up over 10K followers before Fanatics Fest, which is in a few weeks. Let's do it. So DM me your thoughts on this. But I think this card, this Victor Wembanyama 2023 Prism Silver raw to grade at PSA, is a play. You could sell it for a 24% ROI right away, or you can wait for a performance spike and maybe even 10x. Now, a card that probably won't 10x with a performance spike, but you could sell it for significantly more, that I highly encourage all of you to buy as many graded copies of this as possible, is Wemby's base Prism. Wemby's base Prism. Now, remember a few years ago, for those of you that were in the hobby, there was like this big thing and people were talking about base cards being dead and all that stuff. That's not true, by the way. I don't think it ever was true, but now more than ever, it's not true. I mean, Wemby's base Prism raw to grade is a great play. $36 target cost. Expected ROI 29%. What that means based on our formula is across all grades that you're likely to get based on the gem rate, if you can hit a target cost of $36, you will have a total expected ROI on all the cards that you grade of this card of 29%. Many cards are negative ROI, by the way. So I highlight the ones that you're going to make money on. And if you want more, just go to nooffseason.com, get a free 30-day trial. You'll see our formula-based sports card rankings. Boom. Buy them. All right. CJ Stroud, 2023 Prism Green Wave. Okay. So the Green Wave is obviously a variation. Target cost $144. Expected ROI 19%. So the thing that's interesting about this card, and we're a little out of order here. We did 2 Wemby cards. Now we're going into the Stroud cards. So the 2 Wemby cards that you can make money on: Prism Silver and Prism Base, raw to grade. Now we'll get into some Stroud cards, and we'll go from the lowest ROI up to the top for Stroud cards. So you're looking at a 19% expected ROI. I think that this ROI in a PSA 10 or even a PSA 9 could go up massively during the football season. And that's why I like this and I left this on here, because 19% is not going to get anybody super excited, but the target cost of 144 is not bad. That's pretty low actually for a CJ Stroud Prism variation rookie card. I think the reason it's low though is because it's green, and let me know again, like DM me at Sports Card Strategy on Instagram, drop a comment below at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, it's probably better for you to just go to Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube, just drop a comment below and just let me know, like, is it because of the green? It just doesn't look like it's not a color match. It's kind of a color clash with the Texans uniform. Is that why this one doesn't sell for as much raw? And is that why it doesn't sell for as much in a PSA 10? Thus, the expected ROI is only 19%. Still a good Stroud card though, but let's keep it moving. The base Prism, and again, this is why I like the formula, because I think if you would have said back in 2021, 2022, when people were having stupid debates about are base cards dead, I think you would have said, don't buy the base card. But now the formula tells us expected ROI on the base Prism is 3% higher than the green wave. And the target cost is only $20. This is what I was talking about at the top of the show when I said that pricing has leveled off and even gone down a little bit. And this is for gradable cards that could potentially gem. Now, the PSA 9 still sells for around $30. So the formula likes it. You've got high upside in a PSA 10. Now the PSA 10 prices come down too, but I'm not worried about that because I think that the PSA 10, I think the formula, the reason why this card actually is a little bit misleading in the formula now is because you can buy it cheaper raw than you're going to be able to get it for raw during the NFL season. And the expected ROI seems less, but the reality is that the PSA 10 price is also going to go up during the NFL season. So now you're in a situation where you can buy lower raw, submit to PSA, get it back when the PSA 10 price is up, and probably make more than the expected ROI of 22%. So I actually think of all cards we're talking about on today's show, this is the one to go out and buy. And if you're at nooffseason.com, all you have to do is just like click on the CJ Stroud profile and then click on this card, and we've curated an eBay search for you that just links you directly into Stroud's base Prism. So I would highly encourage you to try to get as many gradable copies of these for as close to the target cost as possible. Submit them to PSA or to us, right? Submit them to us like I talked about at the beginning of the show. We'll get them turned around for you. And expected ROI at least 22%. Now, expected ROI on the Prism Silver 339 is 27%. So it's a little bit more ROI, but the card costs significantly more. So you're going to need $350. That's the target cost. So you got to go $350 for CJ Stroud target cost on the Prism Silver. But I think that you're in a situation where, like I talked about with Wemby, the Prism Silver, sort of unlike the Prism Base, is probably a card that you can hold. And if this dude like wins a Super Bowl, you know, that fucker's going way through the roof. You know what I'm saying? Like that's going way through the roof. So the upside of the Prism Silver is huge. I've been trying to get my hands on a CJ Stroud Prism Silver PSA 10 that doesn't break the bank and put me in a bad spot. And I still think the best way to do it is to probably do this raw to grade play. And then offload a PSA 9 at the beginning of the season when you get it back from PSA. Assuming you can go ahead and make these plays now, I think you're in good shape. Now, there's obviously more cards, right? So there's a couple more Stroud cards we're going to hit on before we get into the really, really fun part of the show, which is going to be me flag planting on one of those 4 rookie quarterbacks. Will it be Stroud or will it be one of the other 3? that I talked about earlier in the show. We will see. I don't even know right now. Normally I have the show like super planned out. I don't even know who I'm going to pick. I'm going to walk through my process with you guys on the show, and I'm going to pick one, and then you're going to tell me in the comments at youtube.com/Paul Hickey, or for those of you that are listening on Apple and Spotify, you're going to DM me on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy after following me and tell me if I picked correctly or who you would have picked. Okay, but what I really like next is this CJ Stroud 2023 Prism 302 Rookie Variation Silver raw to grade at PSA Play, because it's only $190 target cost and it's a 28% ROI. So the difference between the Prism Silver, the normal Prism Silver 339 is $160 difference, but the same expected ROI. And you still have a Prism Silver card that is very unique to the base, very easy to move, easy to sell. It's not going to have as much upside in a PSA 10, probably in the long term. But again, it's got that lower entry fee. So giving you a lot of different options. Now, what's also very, very interesting about the formula, that without our formula at nooffseason.com, we would have no idea that this would be the case. And I don't think anybody out there would have an idea that this would be the case. If I walked up to anybody at any card show and I said, hey, would you rather have a Prism Silver CJ Stroud to grade or a Prism Laser CJ Stroud to grade, but you got to pay the going rate for each, the target cost for each card, I guarantee you that 9 out of 10 at least would say, I'd rather have the Prism Silver. But the answer is actually you would rather have the Prism Laser, because it's only a $90 target cost. So you save, $260 and you get double the ROI. You get 56% ROI. So this allows you to buy more of them, and it allows you to have a higher upside in the ROI. So thank you to our formula at nooffseason.com for that. Now, the question of the day is, which second year QB would you buy, right? Because that's what I've been teasing. We're about to get into that in a second. I'm going to go through my process, my analysis on which second year QB am I going to buy. Full disclosure, at the National, I already bought an Anthony Richardson Prism Silver PSA 10 for $450 and a Will Levis Prism Silver PSA 10 for $200. So I'm already the proud owner of those two cards. I think they've already gone up since then, which was just about a week ago. And so I'm very, very excited to see those hopefully continue to go up. Maybe I hold them for a performance spike. Maybe I sell them right at the end of August or the beginning of September, right before the season starts. I'm excited to own them, and I want more football cards right now because, again, Monday, August 5th, probably one of the last days when we can really buy these types of cards before they start to spike, before they start to move up, and actually flip them very, very quickly, right? Because while I just talked about raw to grade, now we're gonna shift over into buying already graded cards, because this is gonna be a quick flip. I'm gonna sell these cards that I'm about to buy within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So let's get into it. But let me know, right? Let me know. DM me on IG after following me at Sports Card Strategy. Which second year QB would you buy? Or drop a comment below at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Let's get into it. All right. So what I've done here is I've gone to Market Movers. And again, if you want to save 20% on Market Movers, go to marketmoversapp.com, use the promo code NOOFFSEASON. But I mean, it's a great data tool, but it's not a recommendations engine. So I'm going to walk you through my thoughts here. And I typed in, I went to the movements tab and filtered by PSA 10, 2 sets, Prism and Optic, just because I want to kind of compare. I've got base, so that's going to give me base cards from each set. I've got hollow and silver. So for those of you who don't know, silver is for Prism. It's going to say Prism on the back. And hollow is for Optic. It's also going to say Prism on the back. In listings, you might see, you got to be careful in eBay listings or listings on various marketplaces. because they might be mislisted, right? People might think they have a hollow or a silver and it's really not. So you got to really make sure you look at the back of the card before you buy it. And it's got to say Prism. So we'll kind of probably walk through some of that, but I've also filtered it by player. So Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, CJ Stroud, and Bryce Young. Now, the point of me doing this is because I want to sprinkle in a little bit of risk into my portfolio heading into the fall. Because right now I'm pretty safe. I've got like safe. And I think that if I sprinkle in a little bit more risk, I'll have some higher upside. And I should have the same floor. I really should. I think it's just a matter of spending more money, right? So I've got the cash flow right now. I've got the plan to liquidate the cash flow, which I talked about earlier, which is getting rid of everything by the end of November at the very latest. And then we're going to buy back in December. So here we go. Look at just a cursory overview. What I've also done is I've gone 60-day view, and I want to sort by the cards that are down by the most value. So in the price change dollar column, I've sorted it by clicking on it so that you see red numbers first, which means it's sorting by what's down the most. Now, it's interesting. What's down the most is Bryce Young's 2023 Optic Hollow PSA 10. What's down and that's a new release. So I don't give that much credence because, it started at $146. There was a sale last week for $108. So I don't know that that's going to go back up again because it's Optic and because I think while all of these cards, I think, take a performance spike to go up big, and that's the whole point of this exercise. That Optic Hollow Bryce Young, to me, I think it's only pop 95. As that pop grows, there's going to be more and more downside to that card and less upside. So I'm going to fade that card for that reason. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter by more of a 30-day view here. So let's go 30-day view, and we still see the same thing. But the second card is CJ Stroud's 2023 Prism Base PSA 10. Now this is down $25, down 20%. This is a pop 5,900 card. This is a phenomenal safe card, in my opinion, based on the data, to go ahead and buy, because the last comp was Friday, August 2nd, $99, according to this view in Market Movers. Now, it might be different when you're looking at it this week after listening to the pod. That's okay. Prices change every day. We account for that at nooffseason.com. But that's a safe play. CJ Stroud, 2023 Prism Base PSA 10. So I'm going to earmark that one as a potential buy on today's show. I like the raw to grade. I like buying it in the PSA 10. Another one that I'm interested in is, I already have one of these, Anthony Richardson's 2023 Prism Silver PSA 10. It's down $14, only down 2.8%. The last sale, according to this view, was last week for $486. This card sells very frequently, though. So when you're looking at this, the last sale might be a little bit different. I bought it for $450. I'm already up a little bit, but I can't sell it on eBay because it's going to get the fees taken out, right? So I'm pretty much even, which up a little bit, but even overall. So, if I can get more of AR Prism Silvers for around that $450 mark, or even, because I don't have to pay sales tax on eBay because I'm sales tax exempt. I could maybe win an auction at $460, $470, and it's really only going to cost me $465, $475. So that would be a good snipe if I can get one of those. Bryce Young's 2023 Prism Base PSA 10, only going for $35, down 23%, down $10. That's interesting. I'm not as sold on that one, but as we go through the process here in a minute, maybe we come back to that one. So we've got 3 cards to kind of look through. We've got AR's Base Optic, $53. AR's Optic Hollow, $227. Now, again, these are PSA 10s. Considering Will Levis 2023 Prism Silver PSA 10, $233. Got one at the National for $200. So I'm doing well there. I wouldn't mind another one of these. What's interesting is Bryce Young's Prism Silver PSA 10 is basically the same price as Will Levis. So you've got the number 1 overall pick in the entire draft at $244 for a Prism Silver PSA 10. And you've got the number one pick in the second round at $233 for a Prism Silver PSA 10. Pretty equal. Interesting. Then I think the last card we want to consider here, I'm going to skip Will Levis's base, Anthony Richardson's base, and CJ Stroud's Optic Hollow, because here's why. Those are three cards. I just don't think they're the right card. Like AR's Prism base and Will Levis's Prism base, they just don't have, first of all, they're up, but they also just don't have upside moving forward. I mean, when those guys perform well, their silvers are going to go up. I just don't know that their bases are going to go up a lot. I think Stroud's base will go up a lot. I think Young's base is so dirt cheap that, it's worth a buy. I think that Young's Prism Silver PSA 10 is a potential buy. So is Levis's. And then here's the one that I talked about a minute ago that I really, really want. CJ Stroud's 2023 Prism Silver PSA 10. It's only a pop $16.29. I've had 2 9s of this card. So I've bought 2 raw, got 9s on each of them. That's kind of been a break even. I think it's time for me to win on this. The problem is, like I said a minute ago, that the Prism Silver raw to grade for Stroud is better. It's because it's $994 for a PSA 10. That's up $172 over the last 30 days, up 21%. I'm going to stick to the raw to grade for that. I'm going to fade that silver. So the cards that we're looking at buying today would either be Stroud's Prism base PSA 10, Richardson's Prism Silver PSA 10, Young's Prism base PSA 10, Young's Prism Silver PSA 10, Levis's Prism Silver PSA 10. So I've narrowed it down based on pricing to those. Now, I think what we all like to do a little bit is just kind of educate ourselves on the players. So I think it's important to do that. Let's look at Young's schedule, right? The Panthers open up at the Saints on September 8th. Division game, away. Anything can happen in the National Football League. The Panthers could go in and crush, or they could get slaughtered. That's tough. That's tough. I mean, I don't know. Then they go home against the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh comes into town. Then they go at the Raiders. So they go out west after opening up on an away and then a home. They go out west to play the Raiders. Then they got home against the Bengals and at the Bears. So just kind of looking at their first 5 games, I'm not super excited about the first 5 games. From a transaction standpoint, they didn't really make a splash in free agency. They did, I believe they added Deontay Johnson. Is that right? I feel like he's a guy. I think let's see, like, am I right on this? I don't know. Like I thought they signed. Okay. Why did I think they signed Deontay Johnson? Deontay Johnson, football wide receiver, Carolina Panthers. Yeah. So like Carolina Panthers, he should be their number 1 wide receiver. Correct. Like, let's just look up their depth chart. Panthers depth chart 2024. Let's go to ESPN.com. This is not going to be super accurate, but it'll give us an idea. Yeah. So they've got Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and then their first round pick. This is where I was going. Xavier Legette from South Carolina. So Legette is like, for those of you that watch the Receiver show, Legette is like the Deebo Samuel, right? He's Deebo Samuel's college. He's friends with Deebo Samuel because of that. He's compared to Deebo Samuel. He's he's a first round draft pick wide receiver. So like you've got some weapons around Bryce Young. Now you got to look at, I think probably bigger than that is the coaching change. Dave Canales is the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He was hired to work with quarterback Bryce Young, who had a difficult rookie season. This is Google's AI, by the way, which is kind of cool. Canales is coaching philosophy is to play his players' strengths and be aggressive. He has a history of helping quarterbacks improve, including Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith. Canales' approach to coaching also includes building culture, using specific language, attention to detail, finding leaders and competitors. So Dave Canales, the key right there is helping quarterbacks improve, including Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith. So if you're looking for like a buy low, why not go to the number 1 overall pick last year? His cards are down. Why not go all in on some of these Bryce Young cards we talked about? But it's tough. We can't do all of this. So let's go to AR next, right? All right. AR, we're going to skip the preseason. Opens up at home against the Texans and CJ Stroud. That should be a game that gets a massive amount of attention. So we got to keep that in mind, right? Then he goes to the Packers, another game that should get a massive amount of attention. Then home against the Bears. So he'll play CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, and Caleb Williams. Now, attention is a big deal, right? Attention is a big deal. Again, we're looking at selling these cards in the first 4 to 5 weeks of the NFL season. So if AR stays on here, what I like about AR versus Bryce Young is if he stays on the field, he's going to put up huge fantasy numbers regardless. And if the Colts happen to win these games, he could be an MVP candidate. I know that seems really weird for me to say that about Anthony Richardson, but crazier things have happened in the NFL. And I just think we could be in for a treat with Anthony Richardson. I always look at what has to happen. I think more has to happen for Bryce Young's value to go up than for Anthony Richardson's value to go up. Now we look at Colts transactions. They signed Joe Flacco to be his backup. Jonathan Taylor's still there. He's healthy. They've got Shane Steichen is the new head coach. 13 years NFL coaching experience. Last 12 seasons in the NFL. Offensive coordinator, most recently of the Philadelphia Eagles. The last 2 seasons helped them reach the Super Bowl in 2022. So that's tough. Shane Steichen's history is just as good as Dave Canales's, if not better. And so that, and now let's look at, okay, so the Panthers got Xavier Legette. So now if we go to the Colts picked up Latu on defense. They picked up Adonai Mitchell in the 2nd round. So they got AR a weapon in Mitchell in the 2nd round. They still have Michael Pittman. They still have Josh Downs. They still have obviously Jonathan Taylor. So, and they picked up Anthony Gould in the 5th round, who's a wide receiver out of Oregon State. And he's as quick as Xavier Worthy. So there's no shortage of weapons for AR. So I think weapon wise, and I'm just going to even say coaching wise, and just not even needing anything to really happen wise, I'm picking AR over Bryce Young. All right. Now over to Will Levis. So Will Levis is opening the season at Chicago. So against Caleb Williams, home against the Jets. I think they have a quarterback. I can't remember his name. Home against the Packers, Jordan Love, at the Dolphins, and then home against the Colts. So those are his first 5 weeks of the season. I think they could start. I think the Titans, I think schedule-wise, it's going to be harder for the Titans to start off with a record that's better than the Colts. Even though the Colts play the Texans and the Packers and the Bears, then they play the Steelers, the Jaguars. I don't know. Titans-wise, let's look at who they picked up. They also have a new head coach. Sensing a pattern here. So the Titans, we'll get to who they picked up in a second. Their new head coach is Brian Callahan, the former Bengals offensive coordinator. So he worked with Joe Burrow and helped Joe Burrow become who he is today as a pro quarterback. In terms of the Titans, who they picked up, their main additions. Let's go to the draft and see who they drafted. J.C. Latham in the first round out of Alabama, offensive tackle. So they're investing in protecting Will Levis. We know they picked up Calvin Ridley in free agency. That was the big one. Calvin Ridley in free agency. In terms of the let's just go to the Titans depth chart because I want to see who they have. Okay, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd. Yeah, tight end. They got some new names at tight end. I don't know how great they're going to be, but I like their wide receiving core. I like their running back core. I like that they improved their offensive line. Will Levis could be above Bryce Young for me. And I don't think that's going to shock anybody. I wasn't sure where I was going to be on that. I like to try to make a case for people, and I think you could make a case for Bryce Young. I really do. I think you can win buying all these guys, by the way. So, you could feel free, by the way, to not feel like you have to pick between these guys. The more I think about it, the more it's like, why would you not, if you can get them at the target price, just go buy all of these and then flip them 4 weeks from now. Now, the chance, they play each other, though. They play each other. 3 of them are in the same freaking division. There's only one of them that's not in the other's division, which is crazy if you think about it. So they all play each other. So they're not, in that regard, you do kind of have to pick one. And we're probably getting to the one that's the safest pick now, which is CJ Stroud. So Texans open up at the Colts. They host the Bears. Then they go to the Vikings. They host the Jaguars. They host the Bills. That's their first 5 weeks. Man, I'm feeling good about Stroud. Let's see who they added around CJ Stroud. So when we go to the draft and we go to the Texans, we're going to see that they added Kamari Lassiter in the second round. That's a cornerback. Blake Fisher in the second round out of Notre Dame. That's an offensive tackle. Cade Stover in the fourth round, tight end out of Ohio State. And then now let's go to their depth chart. Let's just skip directly to their depth chart. And we're going to see just kind of what their offense looks like. Joe Mixon they added in free agency. That's the big one. Stephon Diggs they added through a trade. We can't forget about this one. So they're stacked. I mean, Stroud, Mixon, Diggs, they're like a video game team after new rosters have been drafted and one team is just stacked. They've got Stroud, Mixon, Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, who's a great underrated tight end. They've got a great offensive line, a phenomenal defense. I mean, they're just stacked. They're just stacked. So, they got Danielle Hunter. Holy crap. They added Danielle Hunter and Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon to a team that was as good as it was last year. So from an injury standpoint, I don't even know if they qualify as a team that I'm even worried about suffering injuries. I mean, as long as Stroud doesn't get injured, I mean, he's going to have weapons. So again, back to the cards that we were looking at. We were looking at Stroud's base PSA 10, Richardson's silver PSA 10, Bryce Young's silver PSA 10, Will Levis's silver PSA 10. And we're going to fade Stroud's because it's just too expensive in the PSA 10. We're going to try to look raw to grade on that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is let's just go in the order in which we analyze these guys. So we'll start with Bryce Young, and we're going to use nooffseason.com player profile pages to just link into eBay and then adjust the search if we need to. So we're going to go to Bryce Young. The formula likes his Prism Silver raw to grade, his Kaboom horizontal raw to grade. But we're not talking about the formula right now. We're going to go to his Prism Silver PSA 10. And again, the snipe price on this that we're going to try to get it for is $244. But we're going to try to get it for lower than that. So let's see what's available. Bryce Young Prism Silver PSA 10. There's one for $285 or best offer. Let's make an offer on that. So I'm going to make an offer on that, and I'm going to make an offer of, well, the lowest suggested offer is 242. Let's make an offer of 235. Let's make an offer of 230. Like, this is how I do it. Like 230. Why not? Like, that's fair. And review your offer, make offer. So my total all in for this is 235.85, and it went through. So offer sent. So I made an offer for a Bryce Young Silver Prism PSA 10. Now, how do I know? Back to what I was talking about with the Silver Prism, like it'll say Silver Prism on the label, and then it'll say Prism on the back. So that's how you know. All right. Now let's go to Anthony Richardson's page, and let's make an offer on his Prism Silver PSA 10, because I also like him. Now you guys might be like, well, you're not picking between the 4 of them. Well, that's true. But if I had to pick between the 4 of them, the card that I would buy would be probably the one I'm about to make an offer on. I think you go big with the Anthony Richardson Prism Silver PSA 10. I think you go big on this, guys. I really do. So here's one right here, $5.99 or best offer. That's obviously $150 over comps. They're hoping for an offer, I think, more at comps. Here's one, $4.99 buy it now. That's not going to give you the option of a best offer. But here's my pro tip. Add it to your watch list. Add it to your watch list. You might get an offer. When you get an offer, then hopefully you can counter at the price you want to counter at. Here's one listed with an opening bid of $480. That's kind of crazy. This is somebody listed it from their PSA account. Opening bid of $480. Here's one, 2 days left. One bid so far at $139. So what I'm going to do is place a bid on this, and I'm going to go, I don't put my max bid in right away, but I'll put something like close. So I'll put $329.99 just to get in on the bidding. And then I'm winning it at $162.50. That's obviously not going to be what ends up happening, but just get the bid in. I want the card. Here's another one. 1 day left, 15 bids, $142.50. Let's do the same thing here. Let's put a bid in at I'll do $299.99. Just to get a bid in. All right, I'm winning it at $155. Will I buy all of these? Maybe, if I can win them all for $450. Here's another one. Buy it now, $499.99. I'll add that to my watch list. And I'm feeling pretty good. I think we can move to the next one. Here's another one, though. Let's bid on this, too. So, again, all these cards are available. This is listed by Probstein. 3 days left. 9 bids. It's at $26. I have a feeling if I go $299 on this, I might not even be the top bidder. Oh, yeah, I am. $102.50. Okay, so now I'm the top bidder on 3 Prism Silver AR PSA 10s, and that's pretty good. And I've added a couple to my watch list. Here's another buy it now, $550. I'll add that to my watch list. And let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, it's easy to get wrapped up in this stuff and do stuff that you don't want to do. So you're getting a live look in at what I do. I'm gonna go ahead actually and go back to Bryce Young, because here's a silver with 4 hours left, and it's at 186 in an auction. And I always talk about how it's usually better to win auctions than it is to make offers, because you can get it for the fair market value, but you have to still stay at the snipe price. So let's try to snipe this one at 225 and just see where it lands us. Yeah. So I'm in as the high bidder with 4 hours and 58 minutes left at 225. So I could win this one. By the time you're listening to this episode, I could have that in my possession. So I kind of realized there, like I went directly over to AR, but I didn't necessarily give Bryce as much of a chance. So let's just keep scrolling and see. Here's another one, ends in 2 days. 157.50, 8 bids. Let's go ahead and try to, let's put 199.99 in here and just see if that gets us the top bid. It does. So that's good. So now we're the top bid on a couple different Bryces. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I want these cards. I think these cards are going to make money. And then here's another 250 or best offer. So let's just make another offer because maybe somebody accepts it while we're still on the show together. So let's make an offer at 220. Let's go low. Let's go low. Make offer. Declined. Just a straight up decline. All right, let's try another one. Let's do 235 and just see. Make offer. Offer sent. All right, that one went through. Maybe they'll accept that one. Maybe they'll do it on the show. All right, nevertheless, over to Mr. Will Levis. So Will Levis, we talked about Brian Callahan as his new head coach. And let us type in the Prism Silver PSA 10. Again, we know our snipe price here. It's going to be, we're going to want to get this for under 230, just like Bryce. Here's one 275 or best offer. So we'll open that one up. We'll come back to that one. Here's an auction that ends in 5 hours and it's already 236.33. Now, because I don't know, so like two schools of thought here. I already own one. If I buy another one, I can become the comp and increase the value of the one that I just bought. So that's an interesting strategy. I'm going to go ahead and place a bid. But I'm not going to go over 239. So we'll do 239 and now it's already up at 2. So I'm going to stop there just because that's a little weird, a little bit of a weird spot. I don't want my dollar cost average to go up that much. And I don't want to feel like I'm filling something up that I already own, if that makes sense. But here's one that, and there's so many of these. So like, this is what I talk about all the time on the show when I'm like, just go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. There's so many of them. So like, here's 3 right here that I could be in the running for. I'm going to bid on all of these. I'm just going to save us the time on the show. I'm going to be the high bidder on all of these. I'm going to put my maximum bid probably at 199. I'm going to come back and do that on all these. They end in several days. So chances are, and there's 5. I'm going to do it with 5 of them. Chances are I might not win any of them, guys. That's fine. I'm fine not winning any of these. But if I win one, I want to win one for under the target cost or right at the target cost. So the final guy is Stroud. We'll probably just go for some of his Prism base here. Because we're going to refrain from buying his Prism Silver PSA 10s. And I think if I try to outbid anybody, it's going to just drive the cost up anyway. So you got to keep that in mind when you're bidding. I think we need to look at Prism base. Let's go PSA 10. Well, you know what? Let's just search for the Prism base, because if I see raw in condition that I like, that could be interesting. Here's a silver with an $800 minimum bid, 0 bids, 4 days left. $800 isn't bad. I'll bid on that. I'm going to bid on $800. I mean, why not be the high bidder on $800? This is a $1,000 card. So if by some fluky chance I win it, then I'm happy to win that for $800. So here's a Stroud. Will this gem base? That looks good. centered, just cursory glance, bottom, top, no glaring surface issues. You got to make sure in the description, we're not going to know until we get the card. So you got to make sure that the description doesn't say like something ridiculous about the item. Perfect fit for avid collectors. Quasimodo collectibles, 100% positive feedback, 38 items sold. Yeah, like why not put in a $28 bid? I'm not going to go too high, so I'm not winning that one. It does look like it could gem. Do I break my own rule? I don't break my own rule on the Sports Card Strategy Show today, so we move on. We go to another one that ends in 42 minutes. Hard to tell, but looks centered up, down. Looks a little off center, right, left. I'm going to pass. Here's one for, now we're looking at raw CJ Stroud Prism base now. This one looks great. Up, down, left, right. No glaring surface issues. If they are, they could be just the photo, can't tell, worth the risk. Does not say any issues listed, and it's a buy it now for $25. So if I make an offer at our target cost, let's see if I can just get this offer in. $25 all in with the shipping, offer sent. So we're going to keep trying to grade this base CJ Stroud Prism. And I mean, you've got some crazy stuff. Like you've got $125 asking price for a base CJ Stroud. You got $290 for a PSA 9 silver. I'll keep scrolling. $20 for a CJ Stroud base. Buy it now or best offer. Oh, it says item is out of stock. I hate that. That's so stupid. I don't know why they let people do that. Why does eBay let people do that? That's dumb. All right. Here's a PSA 10 silver for $850. 2 bids, 18 hours left. I'll pass. There's a lot of base CJ Strouds. What I'm going to do, guys, is for your listening pleasure, I'm not going to make you go through all of these. I'm going to open up in separate tabs all the CJ Strouds that I'm going to bid on. And then I am going to... Here's one. Okay, so here's one. This is finally a Prism PSA 10 base CJ Stroud. Let's just bid on it, right? 7 days left, 8 bids. I'm going to put $79.99 in, and then I'm going to probably go as high as 95 on this. And I'll leave you guys to it, but those are the cards I'm buying. And I think the AR is the biggest risk. I think it could be worth it. I think the base Strouds are a win. I think the Levis and the Young Silvers are somewhere in the middle. Not as risky, but definitely have high upside. I think all 4 of these quarterbacks are good investments right now, but I think you got to buy the right card at the right time for the right price for these guys. Hopefully I did a good job outlining it for you on today's show. Please don't forget to check out our top auctions ending soon on the homepage of nooffseason.com. This is a great way for you guys to get curated auctions for cards that we think you can make money on eBay, Whatnot, and Fanatics Collect. Everybody, have a good one. Talk to you soon. Let's make some money flipping those cards, baby. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. To connect with us further, please subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Please also give us a follow on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy and on X at No Off Season Card. We also have a Discord that you could join at sportscardstrategy.com. Everyone, I'm Paul Hickey. For the rest of us here at nooffseason.com, have a great day. We'll see you again soon.
Yo, I'm Q Harrison. This is the Sports Card Strategy Show with your man, Paul Hickey. What's good? No off season. When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because sometimes when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own.